Hi, Dave. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Stefan, nice to meet you.
Yes. Let me know if there's like anything you need, like an introduction or something, or if you have any expectations for the meeting, just let me know.
No, not really. I have my own slide to introduce myself, so that should be fine. If there's anything you would like to say to actually, entangle it into the full program, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll just start and I'll start from scratch. So whatever you want.
Mhm. No, that's fine. All that I'll do, I'll just right at the end, or actually, I think it's better at the beginning to, encourage people to write any questions, right, in the chat or in the QA
Yeah.
section, and then
Okay.
at the end, I'll just post a link to the agenda if there are any other talks that they want to participate in. So
Okay.
yeah, that's basically everything. Yeah. And
Um,
of course, if there's any issues, let me know and I'll discuss with my colleagues or try to fix it myself. Yeah.
I see that my share button to share slides or to share my screen is grayed out.
It's grayed out.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's grayed out. Yeah.
It should be possible. I know that you're basically an external, but it should still be possible. Let me have a quick chat with my
Yeah.
colleagues.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I think I figured it out.
Okay.
It's probably because we haven't started the meeting yet, or oh no, actually it already started recording. So usually there was supposed to be like a green room before, where we would start the meeting ourselves when we felt like it. But I guess it started recording beforehand. Um, so uh, yeah. In any case, if there's any issue, I could present. You can send it to me. I could present it myself, and you can just tell me when to switch slides if that works for you. But we should wait like a minute or two
Oh,
to see if
yeah. Now,
yeah.
now I see it. I have the opportunity to share. So now it's not
Okay.
grayed out anymore. Yes.
Yeah, my colleague just changed it right now. Okay.
Ah,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So shall I check if it works?
Yeah, you should.
If I can see it, if you can see it. Yeah, right. I think you should
Yes.
be
Yes.
seeing 5 ways to screw up your BizDevOps transformation.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Great. Stefan, will you let me know when I can start?
Yep, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, I can. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for having me at this great event. What I'd like to do, and in the meantime, I'll be sharing my screen here. What I'd like to do is share with you some of my key learnings, which I have collected over the past, let's say, 20 years in doing agile, lean, DevOps, and BizDevOps transformations. Because sometimes it's good to see what goes right and to learn from it, but in most cases, it's also very much, it may be even better to actually learn from things that didn't go so right and that went actually quite wrong. And what did we learn from those? And can we, do, anything in our organization when we engage on a transformation, a serious transformation like this, that we can actually learn from things that actually have failed. That's usually quite learning. The setup I have for today is first, I'll share a bit about what BizDevOps, because the title already says BizDevOps, why it's important to talk about this specific title, and why BizDevOps is relevant and what it does in an organization, what are the most important ingredients to tackle, and then I'll focus on if you engage on a transformation towards a BizDevOps way of working, what are the key things you should prevent doing? If there's any questions, feel free to jump in and put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them for you. Just for your information, my name is Dave van Herpen. I'm from the Netherlands. I help organizations to become a better version of themselves. I've done this for 15, 20 years now, having been engaged with quite some multinational organizations, which you can see at the bottom here. And sometimes with teams, sometimes with teams of teams in complete value streams, release trains or whatever, and sometimes with management teams and complete organizations. And I've collected all of the learnings that are actually suitable to share with you today for this presentation. In addition, I'm also attached to DASA, which I've been involved in for quite some years now. And with DASA, I've been the lead author of of quite some products that we have developed in the past few years. Among which portfolio management, product management, and experience management. And you will see some of the learnings that I present to you today. You will also see them in the programs that we have created for them as well. Together with many other practitioners worldwide, we have created quite some interesting programs. And for you to get a better idea of what DASA is, where I'm very much engaged with right now, is that DASA is the largest DevOps and Agile industry body worldwide, and not only from our original background in terms of certification programs, etc., but right now, foremost, being a transformation partner also for enterprise partners like Vodafone. So there's quite some value in actually having a look at the DASA portfolio itself. And the DASA portfolio is built around a number of transformation themes. And here you see a number of them, which can be quite technical, which can also be more towards process and way of working, which can also be towards organization and culture. So there's quite some transformation themes that we have built our portfolio around. And the portfolio of DASA is then first still also the certification programs, which you see here in the middle layer, in all of the areas, in all of the 6 transformation themes. You see them also here reflected in this slide. But around it, you also see the concept of value boxes, which is very much something that you as an enterprise member are also very much able to use these. These actually contain very tangible instruments, products that you can use in your transformation, like workshops or assessments, or all the very tangible instruments. So feel free, if you have not looked into the DASA portfolio yet, feel free to do so. And if you have any questions on them, please reach out. Now, I promised to talk about BizDevOps and about transformation learnings in this aspect. If we talk about BizDevOps, what do we mean with this? And there's quite some, challenges we could, pose to ourselves. And do we want terms like BizDevOps to be there, like DevOps or DevSecOps, etc.? But in the end, it's more about understanding what it is really about. And BizDevOps, actually, this is one of the key visuals that I think actually reflect the value of BizDevOps to the fullest. Where on top you can see more like a waterfall approach, where every step in the delivery cycle is done by usually a specific team or a specific capability, specific function, specific person, specific role, and then hand it over to the next step. Now, if you move towards agile ways of working, like for instance Scrum, you want to have your build and test and maybe even your release bundled in one team. DevOps is about actually making sure that everything that happens in IT is also collected and is also bundled and organized within the team itself to create a multidisciplinary team there. And the real focus of BizDevOps is actually putting it more to the left as well. So the moment that you start, creating and analyzing your customer journeys, the eventual customer experience you'd like to bring, and putting that into the team as well, that's when we start talking about BizDevOps. And that's also where we start talking about real end-to-end empowered product teams. So having end-to-end empowered product teams is very much intertwined with the BizDevOps concept. So now that we covered, BizDevOps on what it is, let me share the 5 ways to actually screw it up in your organization. Maybe to learn from them and to not do them as well. And the first way to actually screw up your BizDevOps transformation is to keep calling it a BizDevOps transformation. This might be a bit tricky, but this is actually quite fundamental. And the picture you see here is a picture of actually a song of Johnny Cash. And Johnny Cash created a song a long time ago, which was called A Boy Named Sue. And A Boy Named Sue tells a story about a fellow who was named by his father Sue. And, that was not a typical name for a boy, right? So whenever he grew up, he was bullied and, people made fun of him. So he had to fight for himself. And he told to himself, whenever I meet my dad, because he didn't see his dad ever since he was born, whenever I meet him in real life, I'm going to kill him because I just hate him. And then there's a point in the song where he actually meets his dad in a saloon somewhere, and they get into a fight. And then they are almost on the verge of killing each other. And then the father says, "Do you know why I gave you this name? It's because I wouldn't be there for you when you grew up, because things didn't go very well between your mother and me. And I just wanted you to be resilient, to be able to stand up for yourself. So that's why I gave you the name." Now, they hug, it's an American song, so it ends happily. But at the same time, this is really crucial in understanding that it's not about the name that you give to a transformation like DevOps, or in this case, BizDevOps or DevSecOps or whatever, but it's crucial that everyone in the transformation who is involved in this, especially the teams themselves, understand the why behind it. That is absolutely fundamental and crucial to making it a success. And there's so many, terms that are just spread across the organization, and those can be framework specific, like SAFe or Scrum or Less or Spotify or Agile or whatever. But in the end, it is really important that you get beyond the cargo cult and that you actually start to see, why did we choose this name? And understanding that the reason why the name was chosen of DevOps, and hence also BizDevOps and DevSecOps, etc., is going back to the source. And we see that Patrick Dubois, who gave the name DevOps many years ago, he said it's all about the collaboration between people. and making sure that you get rid of or actually connect the silos between. And as long as you keep that in mind, that's most important. And at the same time, understanding what is the why behind DevOps or BizDevOps, and understanding the why behind this. For me, this is a framework that has helped me a lot, and actually, getting a bit more structure into that specific why. So BizDevOps or DevOps are not about actually creating DevOps teams or BizDevOps teams and having a check mark, when you've done your training. It's about creating better products with higher value and quality. It's about delivering them sooner and having sooner feedback to actually make your flow more efficient continuously. It's about creating safer and compliant products which are resilient to your ecosystem, and to have happier stakeholders, employees, but also happier customers, users, etc. So the idea is to actually make sure that you have all of this why covered, and that's way more important than just the name. And peeling it a bit more off. So if you talk about BizDevOps, it's important to not talk about the term itself, but to actually think about what are the most important things behind it. And there's actually three that we have also described in DASA, which is value, flow, and resilience. Those are the key elements of BizDevOps. So don't overfocus on the name, but think about those elements. And the first one is value. And value is also quite tricky because everyone agrees that it's important, but no one actually really knows what it is and what we're actually trying to achieve. So what we have in product management is that we have a number of actual perspectives on the eventual value that we have brought together within the product team. And one, it's actually making sure that you deliver valuable products, which actually deliver some kind of value to your users and customers. And you also want to make sure that whatever you're delivering, that it's feasible, so that the team actually has trust and confidence that they can build it. It should be viable in the long run, commercially viable as well, and it should be usable to your users and customers as well. That's why if you have empowered product teams who have that BizDevOps concept, that they actually bring in the voices of the customer, the business, and technology all at once. And there's key questions that you can ask yourself as an organization. One is, how are your products currently defined? So if you have a BizDevOps organization, it means that you need to have business products defined, and then your teams align to those business products. Now, if you're honest, do you currently have IT products or do you have business products? And that's a very important question to ask. And the second question you may want to ask yourself is, do you have a system of processes, for instance, also your portfolio processes, etc., that actually help you to prevent what we call value inflation? So if you define upfront and we think we have this feature here, or we have this epic, or this really important piece of work that we need to do, and we think it will create this and this value to these and these customers with this and this extra revenue or whatever. If you will not actually track the benefits that you think up front and that you promise to be there and that you have entered in your business case, but you don't track the actual benefits, what you will get is value inflation, because everyone will then just promise the whole world and make the what we would call golden mountains, and everything will be perfect with this new solution or feature or epic or whatsoever, because we won't measure and actually track the benefits anyway. So it's really important to make sure that in your product delivery process, you always have that check and you have that benefits tracking to make sure that the value that you promise upfront is continuously measured. Now, the first part then was value. Then the second part of BizDevOps is flow. Now, actually, if you want to visualize flow, this could be a nice visualization. Not necessarily the lady here in front, but more like the whole square that you see here. And this is a picture of a square in the Netherlands. It's in the north of the Netherlands, and it's what we call a shared space concept. And this actually was in the previous years. This was one of the most dangerous squares in Holland with a high level of accidents and also with deadly consequence. What they did there is actually remove all of the traffic lights and traffic signs, and it became one of the safest squares in Holland. Why? Because people, when they follow procedures, they stop thinking. Whereas this, as we see it right here, is always a complex situation, meaning that there's a lot of drivers that can enter the square at a certain point in time with different backgrounds, different expertise, different ambitions. And you want to manage that in the right way, and you're actually managing a complex system. And the right way to manage a complex system is different than managing a very simple system. Now, by the way, the way that we have organized this in the Netherlands, this square specifically, did not only enhance security, it also enhanced flow. What you saw was that maybe one specific driver was actually needed to yield to maybe this lady that's crossing the road. So for that one specific driver, instead of having a green light and being able to just cross the square immediately, had to wait for some time. So individual actions and individual flow may be a bit less, but the total flow, the full flow of the full system increased enormously by using this system. So that means that we always have to look at the full system, the full BizDevOps context, and see what can we do to enhance the flow in that full system instead of just your own piece of the puzzle. Now there's 3 key strategies that we see that actually help to increase system flow for a BizDevOps context. And first is to limit your work in progress. So the more work you have to do at the same time, the less you will get done in reality. And this is not only valid for a team that only does DevOps, but specifically also for a team that does BizDevOps, because there's so much that the team actually should be doing, not only having business features built, but also having technical debt being fixed or refactoring to be done or whatever. So there's so much that you need to do at the same time, but you only have so little to do. So actually trying to create more like a one-piece flow, or having the team set around small pieces of work that you can have done, that always works. So it's also in line with small batch size. So the larger that your batches are, the longer they will take through your system. If you have DevOps in place and you're able to create those continuous delivery cycles, but on business side you're not able to actually accept those small delivery cycles because you have a different cadence, you have a different way of working in the business, and you're not able to accept it at the same pace, then you will create a larger batch size, implicitly, because you will create a larger business release. Things will pile up, and then your batch size will increase, which means the flow will decrease. And last but not least, reducing queues also helps to increase your flow in your system, also from a BizDevOps perspective. If you have a DevOps team which is focused on IT, but you have different people working in the business, working on customer journeys or doing the acceptance testing or whatever, then you have different queues, you have different lines, different backlogs, wherever you want to have something done. Then in order to be able to actually use the functionality, but you have to wait for someone to accept it, or you have to wait for someone to do an analysis on the business side of a customer journey. That means that you have another queue to go through, and that means that your flow will be reduced. So there's 3 key strategies that help to enhance system flow from a BizDevOps context. So we had value, we have flow, and we also have what we call resilience. And there's actually a one step further than only creating resilience. So it starts with having a fragile system or a fragile team. You pick one person from the team and the team doesn't function anymore. Then you have a fragile team. Or you have a system or an application or whatever, and one functionality doesn't work. It means that the whole application is unavailable. That means you have a fragile system. And the opposite of having a fragile system, it's not necessarily robust. It means that it does what it promises. is also not resilient. It means that it's able to adapt to circumstances, but the real opposite of fragile systems or fragile teams or whatever, or fragile organizations is anti-fragile. And that means that if something happens which was not predicted, the system actually gets stronger out of it. So it's also about building muscle. So you actually strain your muscles, and then they actually grow from that disorder, from that, pain that you actually see in your organization or in your flow or whatsoever. So resilience, especially anti-fragility, is something that we see in the BizDevOps context. That's really important to grasp as a concept. So we have value, flow, and resilience, and those are really at the heart of BizDevOps. And as long as you understand what's the essence of those, that's way more important than having the label right. So the second way to actually screw up your BizDevOps transformation is to just Gantt it. And what I mean with this is there's no single size that fits all in terms of way of working or transformation approaches. There's at least two, and that's what we call the cat change or the wash machine change. And the wash machine change is the way that we have a look at a change at a transformation, where you just take the manual. So the washing machine breaks, you take the manual and you see what's going on and you fix it, and then it works again. That's how you change things in a wash machine or solve incidents. But in a lot of cases, the way that we actually need to deal with the transformation or change initiative is more like a cat approach. For a cat, you don't get a manual in order to change the behavior of the cat. And you need to experiment. You need to find out what works. You try something, and then you see how the cat behaves, and then you base your response based on that initial response of the cat. And that's a different way to look at a change. And another way to actually have a look at it, and if there's one framework that I'd like you to remember by this talk, it's Cynefin. And I'm not sure if you've been familiar with this approach, with this framework before, but I really would advise you to have a deep dive into this, because for me, Cynefin has opened a lot of doors. It has actually realized myself, and also helped me to realize in a lot of change initiatives, is that there's different ways to approach and to solve a problem based on the context. So if you're in a clear context on the right bottom and everything around you is pretty clear and defined, etc., then the best way to have a problem-solving approach there is to just what we call sense categorized response. It's what we do with service requests or standard changes. And it's about actually having, a fixed categorized response, a steady process. It's always the same. You can use best practices really to actually fix a problem in that area. Now, in the right top, we see complicated. And for that, we do need to have an analysis of what we call sense, analyze, respond. So actually dealing with problems in your area, or actually, now if you would have a Ferrari car, for instance, and deconstructing and reconstructing the Ferrari car might be something that is a complicated problem, because as long as you know about Ferraris, as long as you know, you have the data, you have the information, how it works, then you can actually just, fix it again. And it works the same as it did before. But the thing is, a lot of the change we need to deal with is complex, which means there's a lot of unknowns in your organization, and also in your change initiatives, which means that there's a different approach to this, which is about probe, sense, respond, which means you first need to do experiments. You see what, preferably multiple experiments at the same time. You see what's happening with the experiments, you validate, you learn, and then you respond. So dealing with complex problems is about experimentation. And if you have a BizDevOps transformation in place, or a DevOps transformation in place, and experimentation is not really explicit part of your change initiative, then usually you're in the wrong place. So this is having different ways of actually looking at your system, or at your team, or at your organization, or the problem you need to solve, the transformation you need to do, and then decide on which type of approach fits best. Okay, so now we know that the second way to actually screw up your BizDevOps transformation is to think that there's one size fits all. Now, the third way to screw up your BizDevOps transformation is to create Chuck Norrises. So what I hear a lot is that, if you do DevOps or BizDevOps, so you want to go a few steps further, you expect everyone in the team, in the product team, whether they have a business background, IT development background, IT support background, IT operations background, quality or testing background, whatever background they have, you expect everyone to be able to do everything in the team. That's impossible. It's just impossible. It's also impossible to have all of the knowledge that needs to be done within that single team. We can show this by having these examples. So if we would create chucks, that means that we would have one team, and that one product team would be able to actually capture, all of the methodological things that need to be done. They also need to capture all of the themes and business issues that need to be tackled. They also need to be thinking about cultural things, and there's so many technical practices that they need to do, learn, etc. Being regarding the business product, the data, the platform, the infrastructure, the application, database, etc. So there's just too much that one team can handle. That's what we call team cognitive load. And this means that however your organizational setup is, it needs to address exactly this team cognitive load. There's a limit to what one team can actually handle in terms of their brain power. And the way to deal with this is by using scaling frameworks, for instance, by using things like team topologies to set up, product teams and platform teams, where platform teams actually deliver ready-to-use platforms to the product teams. You can use SAFe, which is also being used at Vodafone. You can use other, org topologies, Spotify types of things to actually help to redesign your organization. But it needs to be redesigned in all cases. If you want to move from DevOps and also really, be more entangled and intertwined with the business as well, to have a real BizDevOps way of thinking and working, also your organizational structure needs work. It needs redesign. So your structure and governance needs to be redesigned. Your architecture needs to be redesigned. And the way that you actually deal with strategy up to the teams to execute, work needs to be redesigned. Your products and service may need redesign, etc. And why does it need redesign? It's because if you don't change the way that you're organized, if you don't change your structures, if you don't change your products and services, etc., you will never be able to actually create that that new mindset, that culture of a biz DevOps, true biz dev and ops collaboration and way of working. Because people will always follow the structures that they're attached to. By the way, this term here, I first heard it from Craig Larman, I think, quite some years ago. But this term does not mean that you only need to change your structure in order to change your culture. And that's about the next key learning. And the fourth way to actually make a huge mess out of your BizDevOps transformation is to stick with fluffy culture stuff. So yes, culture is important. At the same time, if you talk about culture and you talk about values and what do we find important, we end up with now terms like these. So we all think that collaboration is important. We all think that feedback is crucial. We all think that value-driven way of working is fundamental. We all think that multidisciplinary teams are the way to go. And we all agree on that these are important things. At the same time, we don't know how to do different and how to act different tomorrow. So we need to be able to actually translate these overall generic statements into more tangible, small things. Now, one of the key things we saw in DevOps and BizDevOps is that we actually want to make sure that instead of having a large pile of work, breaking it down into small pieces. This is exactly how you also deal with a cultural transformation as well. So breaking it down into very small pieces and, enabling the teams to make very small steps in terms of behavioral, incremental growth, instead of having large scale values and cultural programs in place, etc. Try to make this small as well. And that means that if you talk about, those cultural values we just saw, it means try to break it down together with your teams into those really tangible small steps that you can actually achieve within a small period of time, and that you can observe and that you can actually agree on together, and also hold each other accountable if it's not being met. And so these are important steps to actually grow small stepwise towards, that end-to-end product mindset and that BizDevOps behavior that we really see. One example here is we all agree that prioritization, value driven, is important, but what does it look like in terms of a real behavior that you see in the team? For instance, that the PO, together with all of the product engineers, all of the engineers in the team, whether they come from business or development or operations or just now being one part of the team, that they jointly discuss at least once per sprint, if you use sprints, the prioritization of the work on both functional and non-functional work items. That's something that you can actually just measure. You can see this, you can observe this, and then you can improve on this as a team. So make it small. Now, the fifth way to actually make a mess of your BizDevOps transformation is to under focus on experience. And this is an important part. As you have heard me say at the beginning of this talk, I'm also involved in creating DASA experience management as a very fundamental program in the past, let's say 1 or 2 years. I think this is one of those key elements in actually making sure that experience is being measured on multiple levels and is being dealt with and is being translated into tangible improvements as well. But in a lot of organizations, we see an under focus on experience, unfortunately. So yes, we see CX and UX addressed, so customer experience and user experience. So we have a UX designer on board maybe, or you have some, maybe even some metrics on customer experience, what you'd like to see, CSAT scoring or whatever. At the same time, more and more, we also see employee experience. And if you look at it from a platform engineering perspective, we also want to create, those great platforms for developer productivity, which we call DevX, developer experience. So, and we all also know that if you have, happy coworkers and happy developers, you will in the end also have happy customers. But that's not the only things and not the only perspectives on experience, because you also have suppliers. Also at Vodafone, you have a lot of suppliers in your ecosystem that help together with yourself, together with your team, help to actually deliver products and services to your customers. Now, if you don't have happy suppliers, if you don't have happy counterparts in your ecosystem, you will not be able to create that happy customer in the end from an end-to-end perspective, because people will not be motivated. People do not know what the customer actually wants. They do not know what your strategy is as a client of that particular supplier, etc. So having those happy suppliers as well in your ecosystem is crucial for your full experience. And happy citizens, happy climate. We also need to look at our environment. If you are not able, especially as a multinational organization nowadays, if you're not able to address, really important climate stuff or important societal, themes, then the new generation does not want to work for you anymore. So you also need to provide what we call BX, which is brand experience. Also need to be aware of what is our full experience as a full brand to our eventual customers, but also to potential employees. So this is having a holistic approach to experience and not only focusing on CX UX. And as an example, I will dive into happy counterpart for a few minutes, because I think that's one that may be quite essential to Vodafone as well. So this one shows that if you want to actually address a full ecosystem with a lot of suppliers in your full delivery chain, not only having only internal developers, but also having external suppliers providing capacity or providing services to your organization, which are then part of your total business products in the end. Also here, value, flow, and resilience are also needed. So if you want to create value and flow and resilience in the full ecosystem, there's quite some practices that you can use here. For instance, in the middle, you see the code of conduct. So if you have multiple suppliers working together in your ecosystem, do not only agree on KPIs and SLAs and service levels, etc., but maybe also consider using a code of conduct. How do we want our suppliers, but as a supplier, how do we want our client to actually really act, and what kind of behaviors do we need from each other to create a successful ecosystem for our client and to keep value, flow, and resilience in that full ecosystem in place. So that's one example. And the other example is on the right bottom, which is multidisciplinary teams and swarming. And a beautiful example I've seen in real life here is that we created cross-functional teams across multiple suppliers, including the client as well. So having a lot of relevant stakeholders, developers, engineers, support engineers, testing, quality, etc., and having them all in a multidisciplinary cross-organizational team, and actually creating a swarm which may be not only swarm around major incidents, which we're actually quite used to. So there's a major incident and we actually collect all of the people and we put the system in the room and we actually solve the major incident. But this tactic, this practice is also very suitable, for instance, in creating root cause analysis for doing your problem process. It is very suitable for dealing with complex changes across multiple suppliers. It's very crucial to also use this for continuous improvement across multiple organizations and contracts and suppliers within a full ecosystem. So thinking about how can we actually apply these swarming concepts in our entire ecosystem is an important tactic. Now, and finally, because I promised to only have 5 ways to screw up your BizDevOps transformation, I have one extra. And the extra one is if you allow fake change to happen in your organization, you will not end up where you want to end up. And you may end up in the wrong or nasty place. And there's this example of so many organizations that have adopted frameworks, like for instance SAFe, and have just renamed a few roles, just relabeled some artifacts, or just relabeled some processes, but still kept doing the same stuff. That's what we call fake change. And for fake change, I think the Germans have invented a fantastic word. So all credits to the Germans. Not sure if there are any Germans in the call right now, but in Germany they created a word which is actually a contamination of 2 different words, and it's what we call Eisenbahnscheinbewegung. And Eisenbahnscheinbewegung, or railway fake movement, it's the word that we use. So if you're in a train and you're on a train station, you're sitting in the train, and the train next to you starts moving, and you think you're moving yourself, but it's only the train next to you that's actually moving. So that fake movement is what we see a lot in organizations. So we look around us, we see other people moving, other people changing, and we have the idea that we're changing ourselves. But that's only fake. And that's what we see too much happening also in managerial levels, that they look around themselves and they see everything's changing, and then they say, okay, that's fine, then I don't need to change. But everyone actually needs to understand that everything in the system needs to change. One example of this is that one of those typical dichotomies that we see is that we want to move from project to product. So we want to move away from having projects to products. And in doing so, we actually, the most fundamental move we're doing is that we go from bringing people to the work to bringing work to the people. But what we see too much is that we see hybrid approaches. We see hybrid approaches where we still have, where we have those DevOps teams who create stuff, and we still have some projects which still ask and have some allocation of person X for 20% of the time to actually be engaged in this project as well. So we see too many hybrid approaches. If you don't have those hybrid approaches at Vodafone, applaud yourself, because that's great. Because if you do, you need to know that it will burn out your teams, because people will be frustrated. You will not have that really empowered product team that can help to think in terms of BizDevOps way of working, create those products themselves, and enhance them, improve them, continuously improve on them, because some people will not be available for a period in time. So finally, I talked about DASA and the portfolio already a bit at the beginning. I touched upon some of the elements, especially in the right bottom here, like product management or portfolio management, organizational agility, and experience management. But there's so many other elements that we have in our DASA portfolio. As Vodafone, you're a DASA enterprise member, so please make sure that you use the most out of this membership, because I think it's crucial to actually keep developing and together actually being able to move towards this potentially BizDevOps way of working, and to actually move across from having IT as an optimal function, but more in line with what the business actually wants. And if you do so, please try to prevent, to call it the BizDevOps transformation. Please try to prevent using Gantz, trying and thinking everything is scriptable and can be done in a roadmap, but think about experimentation. Don't create chucks. Don't stick with fluffy culture stuff. Don't think of experience too narrow, but make it a holistic experience. And please do not allow fake change to happen. So that's what I would like to share with you, some key learnings from BizDevOps transformations. I'm not sure if there are any questions. I see some notes in the chat that we have some shared space concept also tried in the UK, indeed, in the front of the Natural History Museum. By the way, also it was in the also quite some experiments near the Central Station in Amsterdam. And I think if you go to an average square in Bangkok, you will actually experience exactly the same. So there's quite some experiments that are being done worldwide.
Hi, David. It's Andrew here, and I was the one that posted that, and I was involved in some of the campaigning that led to things like that happening in the UK. Excellent talk. I really appreciate all the things you brought in here. One of the areas, because you touched upon it with the Sooner, Safer, Happier, which is a fantastic book. A lot of these concepts come from. Around the safer side of things, I was really intrigued in that book, the way they talk about safety teams and aligning a safety team to the value stream as well. So right now at Vodafone in the UK, we have a home broadband value stream that I'm a part of. But I was really intrigued by this concept of having a value stream, or at least teams either regarding the governance of the risks and things under this guise of safety. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Thanks for that addition. And I also was involved with some organizations. For instance, at a large pension provider, we call it health teams, which, yes, they were about safety, but also about there were not only security specialists in the team, but also, for instance, architects and some risk and compliance officers, etc. That actually that we were not able to spread the knowledge, the deep knowledge, the complex knowledge of those people across all of the teams. But actually combine their expertise within those enabler teams, within those health teams, or like these safety teams, indeed. And their key job is to actually educate the product teams. Their key job is to help support those teams to become more and more self-sufficient. So if there are security incidents to be tackled, you want the team to be able to tackle it themselves, because that's better for the flow. And they do not need to go to an outsider to help them to actually tackle that security incident or change or whatsoever. But when it comes to more complex things and complex knowledge, you want them to be advised by a team like that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a radical change, isn't it? Instead of having one department that takes care of lots of little things, we actually have teams that are, aligned with the value stream, that are experts in that area too, and work alongside those teams. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and it really helps to actually use the team topologies backgrounds for that as well, to think of, the product teams, platform teams who deliver as a service, and then you have more like the enabling teams, for instance, such a safety team, which can actually help to enable the teams, and they provide more like support and advice to the teams. Yeah. Any other questions, maybe? If there's any other question that arise or that you feel like bringing across at a later stage, feel free to reach out to me. Here's my contact details. So at any point in time, feel free to get in touch with me. I'd love to chat or just talk about DevOps or BizDevOps or transformations in general, whatever you prefer. So for now, thanks a lot and have a great day.
Quick question, Dave. Where's the URL, or how do we take advantage of that enterprise opportunity that you talked about?
I don't know what the URL is for you specifically, but I'll make sure that we will send it out to the participants here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great job, Dave. I don't know if there's anything else they need from us, so.
I don't think so, so we can close it down. Thanks, Jess.
No problem. Thanks again for doing this, and great job.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Bye.
Bye-bye.